and welcome to this brief presentation of TIESS, Travel Industry Exchange and Settlement Solutions. This is part 2 of the presentation, where we'll be going through a brief summary of TIESS main portal, also a few additional modules that add to the solution, which are the credit card reconciliation module, refunds, and agency debit and credit memos management tools. For the TIESS portal, we will pretty much be showing the market portal having multiple travel agencies and partners that relate to the suppliers, which would be the airlines, consolidators, tour operators, where they consolidate all travel transactions into a single portal. With workflow activities such as dispute handling, we can set up sales periods, and these would be based on supplier, airline, hotel, tour operator business rules. We'll be driving business statements, invoices, all the way to driving bank files and settlement to the bank. We will also discuss credit cards reconciliation, where we provide a main tool to support reconciliation of credit cards, sales, alternative methods of payment sales, as well as anyone who has our customers' money. The platform would track and control all credit sales all the way to money in the bank also. And we'll also revise refunds module and the agency debit and credit memo module. Keep in mind that from a data security standpoint, all modules are PCI DSS compliant and certified. This is a full web-based application which allows distribution worldwide and to be run centrally or distributed to our customers' offices. We do drive a proof of concept runs. So if the customer wants to see the actual modules running with their data, that is available, and we'll be more than glad to load their data for them and to allow them to navigate the modules, looking at the functions and capabilities we have today. Okay, jumping into a very brief summary of TIESS Portal that was already covered in part 1. Just going to do a quick recap. So the TIESS modules where all partners and suppliers work in is a multi-language, multi-company module where partners and suppliers log in using their company codes, and they allows them to operate in, again, multiple countries and multiple languages. The objective here is to provide a global and standardized vision of settlement and controls, besides the BSP options they have today. On the portal, we have tour consolidators, tour operators, and we can possibly implement any travel-related partner. A few of the items we will cover will be pretty much the dispute handling mechanism, commission controls, adjustments on travel-related transactions. TIESS Portal also manages the balances for invoices and sales reports for the travel partners, and also allows the clearing of balances, as well as controlling taxes at transaction level. The portal and TIESS solution also acts as the remittance and settlement tool, creating bank files, sending bank files, receiving, driving the debits and credits to the banks, and also analyzing the settlement piece, checking for payments and lack of them. This the main screens here, the main flow that you would see here is pretty much driven by travel documents, where all the files can come in multiple formats to feed the TIESS travel data. Some customers even use standard Excel files to feed their sales data. Files are normally sent through FTP, secure FTP processes, and these are normally driven on nightly jobs. So most of this is automated. Once data comes in, TIESS portal allows them to produce invoices for corporate sales, non-BSP sales, integrates with the bank data. We also are a pre-processor for revenue accounting data as needed. So if a customer just needs to feed their data, we can produce reports for their accounting systems or revenue accounting systems, produce hot files for them and such. We have events, clearing, control, settlement routines to analyze payments of outstanding invoices. If a customer decides to use us as a preprocessor of ticket data, we can also drive integration or conversion of their direct sales agencies into BSP, producing BSP web link files ready to drive their data into the BSP and even transition into the BSP. So in general, these are the main functionalities of the TIESS portal. A few details here at the bottom. Regarding the actual system usage, what you would see a simple screen. This is mostly driven by filters and showing data. Here you would see basic invoice data. If you would be querying transactions, this is pretty much like what it would look like. Just talking a little bit about TIESS agencies and partners IDs. We have a complete agency partner database by market in TIESS. They have the definition of a TIESS code. In TIESS, we have a mapping mechanism that allows us to relate and connect the TIESS customer IDs to the agencies' codes. So they can have a code in their systems like XYZ, and within TIESS, they can have code 999. And this mapping allows us to implement the TIESS partners and customers with very little changes to the TIESS customer systems or the partner systems. Over here, you also have a sample of an invoice, sales statement. So all basic IATA travel documents apply, which would be tickets, refunds, ADMs and ACMs, EMDs for ancillary sales, excess baggage and such, all would be part of the reporting. The sales periods can be customized. This can be done weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, or whatever the definition might be. The main billing statement contains all transactions, and the settlement looks like pretty much the settlement solutions IATA already provides, showing taxes, commission deductions. It takes care of the netting, showing the final clearing amount taken into consideration if the transaction is a cash sale, a credit sale, and such. So all this ultimately is combined as travel data into a standard billing statement. So for the statements, you would also see a multi-section area here where you would the partners would not only see air travel data, they can also see hotel data, car rental data, broken down into different sections within the sales reporting here. From here, from the sales reporting, we would drive the bank settlement files, driving the debits and the credits, and we would also confirm all that. All data in TIESS would also be available for accounting in case the customer wants to integrate TIESS settlement data to their accounting systems. So this is the TIESS portal in a nutshell, and this wraps up this overview. So let's jump here into the credit cards and alternative methods of payments, receivables, reconciliation, and accounting. So this would be the reconciliation module for payments. In this, for this tool, we basically run a sales-based reconciliation for our customers. So it basically focuses on the starting point being their sales data, travel data, And just running a little bit here through the list, the goal is to provide financial controls. So if they're selling credit cards, if they're selling PayPal, if they're selling UATP, all those credit sales are tracked through the system, so we can control and make sure that the settlements are occurring as our customers expect. It identifies discrepancies between the sale and the billing receivables. Anything that's found as differences will be sent to a pending area to be controlled. So all the pending items are outlined. We control all the agreements that they have with with the credit card companies and whoever has their money, and make sure that we produce the forecast to be matched against what's being paid. So it's a true reconciliation, matching the controlled billed items to the bank operations. And while doing that, we also provide accounting interfaces, so they don't have to work on accounting data, since all the receivables portion is already handled by the system. Why it works? This is the simple view and vision we apply to the platform. First, we will match sales, making sure that everything sold is correctly processed. So you read the processor's files, understanding that the captures did occur. We match that to the tickets, transactions, reservations. Anything that's pending, we feed a pending area. At a secondary moment, we would receive the actual electronic statements from the credit card processors, showing that they're settling for previous sales. And the amounts we forecasted are then cleared from the bank moment. Also at the bank moment is where we see refunds, chargebacks, and unknown items. And if these do occur, we feed them back into the pending area, which is an auxiliary ledger to help them control monies and any problems that occurred in the sales moment or in the bank moment. So let's jump a bit into detail of these. Basically, we are always controlling receivables at the transaction level. So what we're seeing here is actually a live sales feed from the customer occurring in Excel. So the idea here is to integrate using the customer's current standard ticketing reservation applications, and whatever they might have. If they have a hot file, if they have red files, or even Excel, we can integrate into the reconciliation, into TIESS and into the reconciliation piece. From the data feeds we receive from their processors, we're allowed to match an actual credit card sale, a credit card charge form, to the sale data that we received, thus solving problems with credit groups, families, group travels, traveling together. And for example, over here we have 8 transactions that are actually part of one credit group being matched to one charge. And this is the type of basic initial reconciliation that we do. So at the ticket, at the reservation level, we match one by one and balance those amounts from the credit total expected to the actual billed amount, and produce shortages, overages, and analyze any pending items or discrepancies that might be happening. As a summary from the balancing, what we see is that when we total the credit sales, they should match exactly to any reporting data they have. So they have a BSP closing report. It should match exactly to the amounts we have on the sales reconciliation. Any differences at the ticket level, if you total them, they will be feeding the pending area and be outlined and displayed here, which will ultimately become debits and credits to be solved later on. And anything that is receivables that are correctly analyzed and matched will be tracked as future receivables to become money in the bank. Minor differences are tracked, and all these should match to a zero balance accounting interface. When we check the actual transaction detail, this is what we're doing. We want to make sure that the reconciliation is controlling the invoice numbers inside the system, just like the credit card processors do. So we use an invoice number, and by using the platform, our customer can always go from the ticket or travel document to the invoice, all the way down to the actual bank forecast settlement detail. So they can see tickets, and the tickets are in a credit card. Multiple credit cards become an invoice. And while doing this, we build a true net amount forecast in the future if they're selling in installments, or regardless of the installments, whenever their terms are set with their agreements with their financial partners. So that can be tracked. One other solution that we provide is that the reconciliation also solves a common problem, which is the mismatch between the credit card cut dates, the credit card processor, and the sales cut dates, where the totals normally do not match. So we solve that since we go to the transaction level. The solution always allows for clear control moments and perfect receivables accounting, since we always know how to match invoices within a sales period to invoice total amount that you would normally see discrepancies. All right, so this closes the sales moment side. So again, anything that was a misbalance, for example, I sold a ticket for 1,000 and I found a difference, a shortage, overage, or an unbilled ticket, unbilled transaction, we normally send that to what we call the pending area. That's what we're going to briefly see here right now. Pending area works as an inbox type of routine. It's a ledger that contains debits and credits, and the goal is to leave them all at zero balance. And you can do that by entering solutions. You click on the ticket, decide how you are going to solve that balance. So if I'm going to issue an ADM, if this was an uncharted refund and things like that. So I filter the problem, select the problem, insert the solution, and clear the balances. So we provide a very straightforward workflow for the TIESS customer for them to go after the monies. We also provide a research area. So whenever the customer has a chargeback dispute, which has not yet become a financial item, we allow them to track disputes, attach documents, and control these sales reversals that are triggered by the banks before they become actual debits. So this allows for better controls and the actual reduction of debits related to credit sales due to frauds and disputes. So when that's triggered by the credit card company, it's traceable, and you can track it using the research area and manage all that prior to it becoming a financial issue. Jumping here into the bank side, right? So we've reconciled sales, make sure we match the reports. Anything that's pending goes to the pending area. And the bank moment relies on the actual bank settlement data. So ultimately, we read the settlement data from the credit card company, acquirer, whoever's paying you would normally feed us with an invoice number. And remember, the invoice number matches to invoices inside the TIESS reconciliation module, which in turn maps all the way back to the ticket. So we're always able to refer payments from the travel world and reference those to the financial partners they're working with, even though they don't have ticket detail most of the times. From the travel document, we also have the actual statements and settlements occurring, and we match those to the forecast we built on the sales moment. So we had the sale matching to the invoice, built the forecast based on rules, and we're matching to reality as it occurred. So the end report is actually a standard reconciliation where you see a line here in the middle dividing. The left side here is payment, final deposit amounts. On the right side, you see the forecast. You see perfect matches where they create zero differences on the reconciliation. And you might have actual differences. and those will be traced back into the pending area to be solved. So by working with these two moments, that's how the reconciliation is able to provide the customer with strong methods to control sales and the bank moment. Any discrepancies will be controlled by the pending area. The tool, all data from the reconciliation tool can be downloaded for analysis, normally on Excel files, but we also provide a range of graphs for easy access to data. For example, sales by acquirers. You can see a breakdown by credit card. Here you see diners, MasterCard, and breakdown sales by, again, processor by data. You can jump into actual financial view of projected payments if you're working on a market with installments. Regardless of the quantity of installments, you see the future receivable setup, and you'd be looking this on a long term, or you can look at a short term, looking at a day-to-day on how your monies are reacting based on the different, again, processors. This also allows a lot of freedom by having the controls on a central point, because the TIESS customer can select and change processors without having to reinvent all their controls and statistical data. From an accounting standpoint, everything that happens also drives accounting entries. So we have multiple accounting moments, just like we do sales reconciliation, bank reconciliation, and pending items. Those are the moments we also account for, integrating data into the customer's accounting systems. These would be a few of the accounts that we normally feed automatically. And this is also a huge burden for the TIESS customer. They would usually have separate teams that would be accounting. This is all integrated into the credit receivables controls. We do that automatically for them. Just like we send the sales report, we also send accounting interfaces. This is easily activated. We sit down with the accounts receivables folks, the accounting personnel, and simply drive the T accounts and implement, and that pretty much covers the solution end to end. Reconcile, match, control, and go all the way down to the accounting within their accounting systems, already driving final data for them. We do have a return on investment tool that's available. And again, this is based on historical data. So we pull history data, how many pending items and percentages we have from multiple markets, multiple type of customers. And by simply entering the data, we compare that to and do a proportion between our historical data and what would be with the customer's data. So over here, just a quick example, we have if we were doing, for example, a small airline, they're doing 400,000 sales a month, and they have an average ticket of $75, for example, in 5 years. And based on efficiency parameters, how we provide them with 100% of data as opposed to manual controls, how we balance everything from sales to bank. And also, since we're optimizing, there's an actual personnel process optimization. By adding those, you'd see something like this, a $3 million return on investment in a very clear fashion. That's quite simple to go to the breakdown and explain to the customer. And that is what the reconciliation module is here for. And this wraps up the credit card piece, the reconciliation piece. Let's jump into refunds. So for the refunds, we have we provide a simple way to consolidate all the refund requests from multiple channels into a streamlined refunds process. This way, everyone involved in the refunds process can work with the tool. We provide calculation tools, commission recall, currency conversion, approval workflows, and the module is the primary driver of accounts payables, integrating to actually settle with the passengers or the agencies, and also drive credit card credit orders to integrate for the settlement piece of the refunds. as well as doing accounting integration as most of the TIESS modules. When we check the basic flow, we already have TIESS travel data, which would contain hot files from BSPs with refund data. We can have ticket or travel data directly from reservation systems. They can have online portals that are collecting refund requests for them. All this gets fed into TIESS and the Refunds module, ultimately to produce centralized refund applications, drive the workflows, approvals, provides the credits. Again, after calculations and the workflow is driven, it drives the credit card credit files or the actual payables, deposits to the passengers or agencies, and allows also integration to BSP link refunds files. So it reads and generates BSP link refunds files also for either the travel partner or an actual airline. Below here you have additional details as needed. The refunds processes receives refunds, requests, and applications, and allows the management of these of all these steps in a standard workflow. So it allows for fair calculation, currency conversions, approvals, recall of commissions, and so the end result can be planning for the financial execution by the finance work group. Attached to the actual refunds, you would even see the settlement option, these workflows happening, as well as documentation attachment, referring to the reason of the refund and a refund waiver, backup material, and such. The application allows for complex calculations, so you'd be revising fare usage, deductions, all tax breakdown, all calculations, and especially the foreign exchange and different currency codes conversions. So all that is built in there. You would be seeing logs and history on everything that happened to the refund. All status changed are time-stamped, so the customer is able to see everything that happens there. It also, as all other TIESS modules, contains integration to accounting. So the module generates accounting interfaces, as well as interfaces for integration to the partners, credit card processors, and settlement partners. Works with a central database and allows for processing of all refunds and requests. Allows for date controls, so the airline can control legal deadlines, as well as measure customer satisfaction and performance goals. So you know which dates happen, and you can actually control statistics on these to analyze performance. All TIESS modules are web-based applications, so it allows direct entry by the airline call center, and also allows refunds, non-standard or custom web forms to allow agencies and even customers enter their refunds requests directly. Just as a very brief recap of the refunds piece, again, works with a central or distributed vision, allows workflows, so the refunds process is following compliance rules and governance rules within the TIESS customer entity and their areas. So finance area has approvals, you have fair calculation areas, and all those, the refunds driven between them on workflows. They can come in from multiple points. You can have work groups and different users working with the refunds for distribution or distribution to third parties to process refunds for you. Date tracking mechanisms. It is a web-based application. You can manage all sales from BSP, and all formats can be fed and read from the system. Works with the BSP Link. You would be working with credits to the credit card company, so it can be a driver for spreadsheets or interface files to the credit card companies, even gateways. And our own gateway can be triggered to credit the passengers or the agencies. The refund application is always matched against the ticket database, so we know that we have valid tickets that are being refunded and their whole routing and amounts involved. They can be cleared by the standard invoicing processes in TIESS or in BSP. Penalties are automatically calculated. Approvals on workflows, error types and tables allow for explanations, automatic explanations, and the type of the refunds and the reason codes for the refunds. Recall of commission. Once you paid commission on the refunds, you have routines to drive debit memos. It's got full integration to all other TIESS modules, and as a TIESS process, the agencies would actually be able to follow up on the refund status as they occur. And this wraps up the refund piece. Okay, so let's jump here into the agency debit and credit memos management module. The TIESS memos module allows for the integration and controls of debit memos, credit memos, again from multiple points. Handling of fare, commission audits, adjustment entries, pending items, unbilled transactions from the receivables controls, all that would be managed centrally here. Provides sequence numbering for different markets, calculation, currency conversions, integration to BSP and TIESS processes. It also drives reporting and accounting interfaces, feed for the customers, driving anything related to memo processes, and payables and receivables there is also accounted by the process. Looking at a basic overview, you would have the ticket data, hot data, or direct sales data coming in. You can have an external integration process such as commission audits, or any other type of audit, or even manual entries that feed memo data into the module. From there, you would see numbering mechanisms, exchange rate conversions, BSP link integration, TIESS settlement integration is already built in, of course, and any other integration needed by the customer, including accounting. Additional details are here at the bottom. The module allows the numbering and controlling of multiple numbering sequences, and also different processes feeding. So they receive a type code and are controlled by type codes. That's what also drives the accounting behind this. You would see complex calculation entries and that are managed alongside those types to manage the memo issuance. So whatever the customer defines as types and amounts can be cleared with full amount breakdowns. You also have accounting integration where, based on the memo types, you have the accounting schemes, just like all other TIESS modules, which are configurable and allows you to interface that into the TIESS customers' accounting systems. Memo module allows for multiple work groups and user teams working with the memos, so they can be divided among, the workload can be divided among the people. Works with a central database, so that you can pull statistics and work on memos by type. And the memo management allows also a standard workflow and for analysis and making sure that it's ready to be processed. So a step of entering amounts, types, making sure that it's the types of amounts such as fare, taxes, fees, penalties, and so on are correctly tracked and controlled, so they can be released for debiting and crediting the partners and travel agencies. Few of the output options would be standard BSP link integration, so these would become BSP link memos. You would have custom memos like the one you're seeing there, basic control reporting, and again, accounting interfaces and control reports from the system, just like all standard TIESS modules. Just a quick briefing on the elements that are inside the Memo system. Multiple methods of adding the data, controlling the data. You also have workflow procedures. You have current status, and that may be distributed throughout the organization. The credit and debit memos can enter through web applications or integration files, multiple formats for integration files, such as BSP link and others. Work groups can work on different types of memos. Web-based application, you can always query the status from anywhere, centralized or distributed. You can manage the memos from standard and non-standard types, so like a red file coming in, a hot file coming in from the BSP can clear the balance of a debit memo that's outstanding, and that's what we do also, manage to see if it was processed and settled correctly. You can manage data from the BSP, the integrated TIESS memos. Inbound memos can come from the credit card system. We also have the sales controls module we covered in part 1 that would be issuing debit memos and credit memos from the audits, from commission controls. Memos can be cleared, again, through all invoicing processes, such as the BSP or TIESS directly. Everything has audit trails, so you can control the monies that are flowing in there. Workflow routines, already said. Error types and tables define and explain how the memos react. And of course, it's part of the full integrated TIESS solutions. And this wraps up the memo management module. These are, again, the modules we covered this time in this part 2. I thank you very much for watching this presentation. For further information, don't hesitate to activate your TIESS team contacts. Thank you.